Hey guys, welcome back to NerdCrave. I wanted to kind of make a response video. A fellow YouTuber that I follow, Retro Tony, he made a video about a month ago talking about why he collects at this point and the different phases of collecting that he went through. He talks about kind of the dangers, the pros and cons of collecting and getting addicted to collecting, and I wanted to kind of give my thoughts on collecting things in general from someone who has been a collector his entire life. Myself, I have been collecting one thing or another as long as I can remember, from the time I was 10 years old and I was collecting Pogs and Disney movies and comic books and all kinds of things like that. I've always been a collector, and Tony made some pretty interesting points about keeping things in balance and keeping your priorities straight. But also, there are some really good things to collecting. If you're the type of person that really enjoys collecting, it's not a bad thing. I'm going to be releasing a 2-minute factoid here in the next day or two. It may be up as we speak, about the differences between collecting and hoarding. And what really makes the difference between collecting and hoarding is, honestly, a sense of organization, a goal, and a purpose. In order for your collecting to really qualify as collecting, you need to have goals and a purpose. And Tony mentioned something about, collecting scattershot, and I think that's a phase that every collector goes through, where you get excited about something and you just start buying things like crazy. You start going to the thrift stores and the pawn shops and the garage sales, and you buy everything you see. And that really can lead, by chasing those endorphins, that really can lead to financial ruin for some people and family problems. I know a lot of us have wives or family members that don't approve of how we spend our money, and that can really be dangerous, so you really have to keep these things in perspective. But having said that, collecting can be very healthy for a person. It can really be an outlet for your creative passions. It can be an expression of yourself. If you look around at these things that I've surrounded myself with, everything behind me is an expression of who I am, the things that I am passionate about, the things that I love and care about, the things that I'm going to talk about in a conversation with you, whether it's Star Trek or video games or, whatever the case is. I absolutely love these things. These things mean the world to me. And are they the most important things in the world? No, absolutely not. My children are the most important things in the world. I am very lucky and blessed to have a couple of my 3 children who share my passions. My youngest daughter, Ivy, she's into more girly things, obviously, and that's cool. I try to spend time, watching girly shows with her, things that she likes. We're currently watching Outer Banks on Netflix and Pretty Little Liars, because those are things that she's into, and you really have to keep those things in perspective. But collecting can be really good for the soul. Over the years, I've learned how to collect in a reasonable fashion. And a lot of that has to do with how you allocate your money. And Tony made another point that you have to set a budget. Everybody's budget's going to be different. I can spend about $100 a week generally on myself. Now, whether I spend that on going to a movie or going out to a restaurant, or whether I spend that money on buying a couple of video games or a couple of other things. I'm going to be doing a pickups video here tomorrow, which should air Friday or Saturday, showing some of the things that I picked up. And I definitely spent more than $100 on some of these things. But yeah, there's kind of an ebb and a flow to collecting. And once you've been doing it for a while, you realize sometimes you have to spend the money and sometimes you get the great deals. And, it just all works out and balances out in the end. But you really have to balance yourself. And you really have to set goals and priorities for your collections. For me, with comic book collecting, I decided a long time ago, when I first started back into comic book collecting about 7-8 years ago, I started buying everything in sight. I bought indie comics, I bought superhero comics, I bought just everything. Now I've decided the things that really interest me are comic books based on movie and TV properties that I really care about. So Star Trek comic books, Buffy the Vampire comic books, Green Hornet, and, things like that, they're maybe a little bit less popular, they're a little more approachable in the collectibles market, they're cheaper, not necessarily easier to find, but that's part of the fun of it, and I've focused my collection so that I only collect stuff that's really, for the most part, movie and TV based or pretty retro. I do collect a lot of Disney comics, I collect some Tarzan stuff, some Conan stuff, but, for the most part, I keep it in that wheelhouse. With video games, pick a system, pick 2 or 3 systems that you really enjoy and focus on those. For me, when I first started video game collecting, I was buying everything. I was buying all the shovelware. I was going for complete collections. In my head, I thought I was going to accomplish complete collections of things. But to have a complete collection of games that you're probably never going to play, who's going to sit down and play Barbie Horse Adventures? Who's going to sit down and play a Dora the Explorer game or Mary-Kate and Ashley Sweet 16? You're not going to play those games. Be honest with yourself. And do you have to play every game that you own? No. But I think there has to be a reason and a purpose and a goal to your collecting. So for me, I usually, when I decide to get into a system, I will buy about 50 games that I feel represent all the different genres and all the different gameplay styles on that console. So when I started for PS3, I, got up to about 50 games. Now I'm closer to 100 games on the PS3, but I'm pretty much done with the PS3 as far as, I want the best 50 to 100 games on each console that I really care about. So, I'm working a little bit on Wii right now, as you've seen in the last 3 pickups videos. I'm pretty passionate about finding those hidden gems on the Wii. The Wii library is huge, and it's a lot of fun to collect for because the really good stuff is actually the most obscure, the stuff that you just wouldn't think. And a lot of times these things are hidden in plain sight, and they're pretty cheap. Are there some expensive games on the Wii? Yeah. I've spent $50 or $60 or $70 on the odd game like Xenoblade Chronicles or Ivy the Kiwi, for example, some of the more expensive games. But for the most part, a lot of the really good games on the Wii can be found for $10 or $15 or $20. So it's a really exciting system to collect for. I collect for the DS and 3DS. I collect now for the Switch because I just got one. But again, you've got to have priorities. So when I buy a physical copy of a game for the Switch, it has to be something that I think is collectible, first of all. Something that's going to go up in value, or at least maintain its value. And generally with my physical Switch collection, it's games that I'm going to play once and not probably play again. Otherwise, I'm going to download cheaper games on the Switch, take advantage of eShop sales wherever I can. The only games that I'm buying on the Switch are things that I think are really collectible, like Xenoblade Chronicles or Trials of Mana or... So setting goals is really important, and I agree with Tony where he says things can get out of control, but the nice thing is you can amass a really cool collection on the cheap if you take your time and you don't rush out impulsively and buy that next great game. You just wait, bide your time, you will find the deals. It might be at the end of the console's life cycle. It may be after the end of the console's life cycle before you find those deals. But let me tell you something, the deals are still out there. The key is being patient and taking the deals as they come. I routinely pick up 5 to 10 games a week. And am I going to play all of those games? Maybe someday in my retirement. But those 5 to 10 games generally don't cost me much more than my budget of $100 a week, give or take, that I spend on, various entertainment. A lot of these games are $2, $5, $2.99 at Goodwill or Value Village, So you got to be patient and you got to take the deals that come to you if you really want to build a collection that is not going to cut into your bottom line. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching to the end of the video. If you're still here and you haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon so that you'll be notified of every video that I put up. Thanks a lot, guys. Stay classy.